So if you're counting your calories, training hard, maybe even skipping carbs, and you're not losing weight, here are 5 reasons why you might not be losing any fat. I coach hundreds of people online, and 9 times out of 10, one of the 5 reasons I'm about to go through now is the reason why they're not losing any body fat. So it may seem obvious, but one of the main reasons why you might not be losing any fat is because you're not actually in a calorie deficit. Now, this might happen because you might be eating hidden calories. This can come through extra sauces that you're cooking with, using extra olive oil that you're not accounting for. Also, different foods, chicken breast and chicken thigh. Both chicken. Chicken thigh has a lot more fat, thus a lot more calories per 100 grams of cooked chicken breast, for example. A great example of this is my client Rayhan, who came to me. He was eating lots of curries, lots of processed foods, lots of oils, sauces, extra stuff that he didn't realize was in the food, which was making him eat 300, 400, 500 calories extra to what he was having, which is why he wasn't losing any body fat. We cleared that out, accounted for it all, putting his calories lower, thus making sure he was in a calorie deficit, and that's how we got him shredded. Another way you might not be in a calorie deficit is just because you're not tracking your food accurately. A great example is my Scottish client Dale here, who used to just eyeball all his food. He'd be like, yep, that's 150 grams of chicken. He'd never actually weigh out his food. Therefore, at the end of the day, he'd be eating an extra 200, 300, maybe 400 calories, which was putting him at maintenance or maybe even a slight surplus, which is why he wasn't losing weight. As soon as I got him measuring out his food properly, tracking it accurately, he was able to get shredded, as you can see here. It may seem pretty obvious, but you might actually not be in a deficit. You might be eating the amount of calories that you said. However, during fat loss phases, the body adapts. Our maintenance comes down. Therefore, if you've lost 15, 20 kilos, eating 2,500 calories, you're probably gonna have to lower your food to create a bigger calorie deficit. Now, this could come from other forms, such as increasing your expenditure, but if you're keeping all variables the same, it's very likely that body weight will plateau at some point, and thus you will have to reduce your calories even further to put you in a calorie deficit. Great example here is my client Adam, who lost 10 kilos before starting working with me. He thought he hit a wall, he didn't hit a wall. He was just eating at maintenance. He was tracking everything correctly. All we did was lower his food, put him in a greater calorie deficit, and bang, body weight started coming off, and that's how we achieved this great transformation. If it wasn't for him reaching out, he would have just been stuck there and given up. But all it was a simple lack of knowledge of not knowing what his calories should be for the phase that he was in. So another reason why you might not be losing body fat is because you're actually going through a recomp. A lot of individuals who come to me skinny fat or just a lighter body weight where they've got a low BMI as it is, a lot of the times we're looking at building muscle and losing fat at the same time. A great example here are my clients Mohammed and Kyla. Both of these guys came to me at low body weights, and we went through a very good recomp phase where we lost a lot of body fat but gained muscle. Therefore, it's very important we look at other variables such as physique pictures. Both of these guys, if we just looked at the scale weight, they've only lost a couple kilos, but if we look at their physique pictures week on week, we see drastic changes in their physique from small changes in body weight. This is why we need to look at multiple variables when going through a physique transformation. And the way we got these crazy body recomps was by improving their training and changing up their diet, putting them in a nice calorie deficit, prioritizing high protein intake so that they could build as much muscle during these phases as possible. They're also both new to lifting and new to having a consistent program in place. So the novel stimulus of these variables allowed us to build muscle and lose fat at the same time. Another reason is that you just lack structure and routine. You're freestyling it. A great example is my client Josh. So he came to me saying, right, some weeks I'd train once, some weeks I'd train 5 times. Some days I'd have 1 or 2 meals a day. Then other days I'd have 4, 5, 6 meals. Some days I was doing 1K steps at working at home. Some days I was doing 10K steps. He was just lacking consistency. All we did was put a plan in place that he could consistently stick to, putting him in a nice calorie deficit versus what he was doing before, where with his food, some days he'd be in 1,000 calorie surplus, then some days he'd be in 1,000 calories deficit. And he would just get this fluctuation up and down with his body weight, where he wasn't seeing any significant changes purely due to the lack of consistency. So by putting a plan in place that he could stick to, putting him in that slight 300 calorie deficit, gave us the routine instructor to adjust his plan each week to make sure that we lost weight over the 4 months and achieved the physique transformation that we did. So one of the most unspoken reasons as to why you aren't losing body fat is because you're not able to optimize your sleep and recovery in between sessions and throughout the week. Your body isn't like a robot. It needs to prioritize rest, recovery, and sleep. If you ignore these variables, you're going to struggle to lose body fat. A great example here is my client Tariq, who got shredded in 12 weeks. However, we plateaued at some point, and when I had a chat with him, I found out why we were plateauing. It's because he wasn't prioritizing his sleep. He was only sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night, disrupted, having caffeine late at night, working 50, 60 hours a week. He just wasn't rested and recovered. We implemented some protocols by removing caffeine past 3 p.m, allowing him to get to sleep easier, but we also prioritized him getting 7 to 8 hours a night. So we said to him, at 8 p.m, we're going to cut off work and we're going to go to bed at 9 p.m. every night. By prioritizing these things, we saw his body weight come down very quickly because he was able to remove that stress and able to recover. Now, let's break it down. When you sleep poorly, your hunger hormones, they increase. Therefore, you're feeling hungry all the time, never able to be fully satiated, thus are more likely to binge and eat off plan. Therefore, you're never going to lose fat because you're never going to be in a calorie deficit. When stress is high, cortisol levels are high, inflammation is high, doesn't allow us to recover between sessions and also leads to more water retention. If we aren't able to sleep, we're not going to be able to recover. We're not going to be able to train as hard. If we can't train as hard, we can't build as much muscle as we want. If we can't train as hard, we're also burning less calories throughout the day. Therefore, we're not in as much of a calorie deficit. Also, we're not going to have as much energy throughout the day. Therefore, we're not going to want to do our steps. We're not going to want to do our cardio. So all these little things all add up, and we might end up burning 300, 400, 500 calories less in a day just because we're sleeping less and have less energy. Now, the last reason why you might not be losing any fat is because you're falling into the all or nothing camp. You're trying to be perfect versus just being consistent. A great example here is my client Samir, who came to me dieting Monday through till Friday, and then on the weekends he was just off on a madness. He'd be out eating with family, social events, friends. He had no control over the weekend. So he'd be in a calorie deficit Monday to Friday and then undo all that hard work over the weekends. So all we did is we put a plan in place. Monday to Friday, we made sure he was a nice calorie deficit, 300-400 calories, slowly losing body fat. Then on the weekend, we would set plans in place so that he could still socialize. He's in his 40s, he's got a family, he's got kids, he's married. For me to tell him, right, you can't go out is not realistic. I want all my clients to enjoy their social life and still make progress. So what did we do? We put plans in place over the weekend. He would fast until midday. He would then go on a swim with his kids on Saturdays, and we made sure he'd do lots of lengths, burning lots of calories, thus creating a bigger calorie deficit through more expenditure. Then we would select foods from the menus of the restaurants that he was going to. We would pick clean, healthy food, prioritizing high protein from his meats and fish, with low fat options and clean carbs, prioritizing lots of veg. This allowed him to go out and socialize while still making progress and being at maintenance, worst case, a slight surplus. So maybe Monday he might be up 0.1, 0.2 kilos, maybe 0.3 from the Friday versus previously having gained a kilo or two over every single weekend. This allowed us to get straight back on track on Monday and allowed us to lose weight consistently each week, achieving this crazy result in 6 months without having to sacrifice his social life, which was one of the number one things he said when he worked with me. From the beginning, he said, I want to get in the best shape possible, but I don't want to sacrifice my family and social life for it. So if any of those 5 reasons hit home for you as to why you feel like you're not making the progress that you should be, despite putting all the effort in, you're not alone. These people I mentioned in the videos, but also hundreds of other that I coach online, they all experience the same issues. When we nail these variables and we put protocols in place and solve these issues, the results people see are jaw-dropping. You can be one of those individuals too. If you're interested in coaching and achieving results like the ones you've seen on my Instagram page, like the ones I've shown on these YouTube videos, fill in the type form below or drop me a comment or a DM on Instagram and I will get back to you.